You can eat the perfect diet. You can avoid sugar. You can walk every morning. You can take your vitamins. You can do everything your doctor tells you to do and still be quietly damaging your health. Because there's something many men over 60 don't think about when they talk about staying healthy. It's not food. It's not exercise. It's not even sleep. It's something much harder to see: isolation. And the dangerous part is that isolation doesn't always look like loneliness. You can live alone and feel completely content. You can have a busy schedule and still feel deeply disconnected. You can talk to people every day and never have a meaningful conversation. And you can convince yourself that you're simply enjoying your peace and quiet. But there's a difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is choosing to spend time alone. Isolation is when your world gradually becomes smaller. Fewer conversations, fewer visits, fewer invitations, fewer reasons to leave the house, and eventually fewer people who know what is really happening in your life. After 60, that can become much more important than most men realize, because your body doesn't only respond to what you eat, it responds to how you live. And human beings are social creatures. We weren't designed to spend months or years disconnected from other people. Think about what happens when you wake up and realize you don't have anywhere to go. Nobody is expecting you. Nobody is calling. Nobody needs you to show up. At first, it might feel like freedom. You spent decades working. You had responsibilities. You raised children. You dealt with deadlines. You answered to bosses. You took care of other people. So when life finally becomes quieter, you might think, good, I've earned this. And you have. But there's a hidden danger in quietness when quietness becomes your entire life. Your routines begin to disappear. You stop getting dressed early. You eat whenever you feel like it. You stop going outside as often. You watch more television. You spend more time on your phone. You move less. You talk less. You challenge your brain less. And without realizing it, one habit begins feeding another. Less social contact leads to less activity. Less activity leads to less energy. Less energy makes you less likely to go out. Staying home makes social contact even less likely, and the cycle continues. This is why isolation deserves more attention after 60. Not because being alone is automatically unhealthy, but because persistent social isolation and loneliness have been associated with worse health outcomes, including higher risks of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, depression, and premature death. The U.S. Surgeon General has described social connection as an important contributor to health and well-being. And here's something that may surprise you. Your brain notices social disconnection. When you regularly talk to people, solve problems together, tell stories, laugh, argue, explain something, listen, remember names, and respond to unexpected situations, your brain is working. Conversation is mental exercise. Social interaction requires attention. It requires memory. It requires language. It requires emotional regulation. It requires reading another person's expression. It requires remembering what happened last week. It requires deciding what to say next. A quiet room doesn't demand much of that from you. That's why a life with very little social stimulation can become mentally smaller over time. Again, this doesn't mean every quiet man is unhealthy. Some men genuinely enjoy solitude. That's perfectly normal. The question is, has being alone become your choice, or has it become your default? There's a big difference. Imagine two men who both retired at 65. The first man wakes up, makes coffee, takes a walk, goes to a local cafe, talks with a friend, runs an errand, calls his daughter, works in his garden, and meets someone for lunch once or twice a week. The second man wakes up, makes coffee, turns on the television, checks his phone, sits down, eats lunch alone, watches more television, and goes to bed. Neither man is doing anything obviously wrong, but their days are completely different. One is receiving constant stimulation. The other is living inside a shrinking routine. And over months and years, those differences can become significant. This is where the comparison with diet becomes interesting. Most men understand that food affects health. If someone told you to eat vegetables, control your portions, get enough protein, and reduce excessive processed foods,
You probably wouldn't be surprised. We talk about diet constantly because you can see food, you can measure calories, you can read labels, you can weigh yourself, but you can't put a number on friendship. There's no nutrition label for a meaningful conversation. There's no blood test that tells you how often you laughed with someone this week. There's no prescription bottle that says, take one good conversation every morning. And that's part of the problem. We tend to take visible health risks more seriously than invisible ones. If your doctor tells you your cholesterol is high, you pay attention. If the scale goes up, you notice. If your blood pressure rises, you see a number. But if you haven't had a meaningful conversation in 3 weeks, there's no warning light on the dashboard. You might simply tell yourself, I'm fine. And maybe you are. But it's worth asking a better question. When was the last time someone genuinely asked how you were doing? Not, how's the weather? Not, did you watch the game? Not, what's for dinner? But, how are you really doing? That kind of connection matters. And sometimes, after 60, men can become particularly vulnerable to losing it. Retirement changes your social environment. Friends move away. People relocate. Your marriage can change. Children become busy with their own families. Your parents may no longer be around. Work colleagues disappear from your daily life, and suddenly the social structure you spent 40 years building is gone. Nobody tells you that retirement can create a hole in your calendar. Nobody tells you that you might miss being needed. Nobody tells you that you can miss casual conversations with people you never considered close friends. The guy you saw every morning at work, the neighbor you talked to while taking out the trash, the person who always sat next to you at lunch. These tiny interactions may have seemed meaningless, but they gave your day structure, and structure matters. So what can you do? The answer isn't complicated. You don't need 50 friends. You don't need to become the most social person in town. You need regular connection. Start small. Call one person. Not text, call. Hear their voice. Ask them a question, and actually listen to the answer. If you have children, don't wait for them to call. Call them. If you have grandchildren, ask them about something they're interested in. If you have an old friend you've lost touch with, send the message. You don't need a perfect reason. Hey, I was thinking about you. How are you doing? That's enough. And if you don't have many people in your life right now, don't assume it's too late. It's not. One of the biggest mistakes men make after 60 is believing friendships are something you build when you're young. They're not. You can build new connections at 60, at 65, at 70, at 80, at 80. Join a walking group, take a class, volunteer, attend a community event. Go to a place where people gather regularly. The important word is regularly. Seeing the same people repeatedly gives relationships a chance to develop. You don't need to walk into a room and make 10 new friends. You simply need to show up. Again, and again, and again. The third or fourth time, someone recognizes you. Eventually, someone asks your name. Then they ask where you've been. Then you start talking. That's how many friendships begin. Not with a dramatic moment, with repetition. And here's another powerful strategy. Be useful. Men often struggle with loneliness because they think connection means talking about feelings all day. It doesn't. You can connect by doing something. Help a neighbor fix something. Volunteer. Teach someone a skill. Help your grandson with a project. Work in a community garden. Coach. Mentor. Repair something. Build something. Give someone a ride when appropriate. Human beings need to feel useful. And after retirement, that feeling can disappear surprisingly quickly. For decades, someone needed you. Your employer needed you. Your children needed you. Your customers needed you. Your coworkers needed you. Then, suddenly, nobody is asking. That doesn't mean you're no longer valuable. It means you may need to find new places where your experience can be useful. You have 6 decades of knowledge, maybe more. Someone can learn from that. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to start a business. You don't have to write a book. You just have to share what you know with someone who needs it. And here's something else. Don't wait until you feel lonely to reach out. This is important. Loneliness can change your behavior. The longer you stay isolated, the harder it can feel to reconnect. You start thinking, they probably don't want to hear from me. I'm too old to make new friends. I don't want to bother them. Everyone is busy. I'll call next week. And next week becomes next month. That's how isolation grows. So make connection a habit before you desperately need it. Put it on your calendar. Monday, call your friend. Wednesday, go for a walk with someone. Friday, have lunch outside the house. Sunday, call family. It doesn't need to be complicated. Think of connection like physical fitness. You don't stay strong by doing one huge workout every 6 months. You stay strong by doing small things consistently. Connection works the same way. A 5-minute phone call today can be more useful than saying, I should really get out more. And here's another important point. Don't replace every human interaction with a screen. Social media can help you stay connected, especially when distance makes face-to-face contact difficult. But scrolling through hundreds of posts isn't the same